Welcome into the afternoon sports drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Friday edition. It's the best edition. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster, Levi Peckinpah, and we're live from Brown's Bottle Shop over here at 128 North Main in Stillwater. And right now they are really pushing their large selections of beers, which you know what is great for the spring and summer. You got a bunch of IPAs. When I think of spring, summer beers, you're thinking IPAs. Stone Brewing and 6 Point Brewing has a bunch of new ones, barrel-aged beers from Dogfish Head, and there's lots of new brewskis over here at Brown. So make sure you come check them out. If you like beers, there's plenty of different opportunities and different tastes that you're going to be able to find over here. Most unique spot in Stillwater and the surrounding area. So come check them out at Brown's Bottle Shop. Patrick Wheeler, Levi Peckinpah, and Zach Lancaster with you. And we'll have a lot coming up here in the show today. We got Oklahoma State stuff to get to here in just a bit. NFL draft coverage. We are starting that now because we are less now than 3 weeks away. Can't wait for that. You never know what you're getting on the show. So thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll get right into it with the NFL draft about to get started. Actually, no, let's push that back for a minute because I wanted to hit on the Deshaun Watson stuff. I don't know if you guys saw these the newest news today, but there was an update earlier today that the judge ruled in the Deshaun Watson case that another accuser will have to identify herself. And then it looked like Tony Busby had said there would be 9 different accusers that would end up identifying themselves today in the case that to reveal their identity that was granted to Deshaun Watson. And if you are able to get 9 more come out, I mean, you're looking at close to potentially burying him. I mean, if this gets any further, this situation continues to spiral out of control here. I think for Deshaun Watson, as much as they're really trying to fight it, and still, we talked about what best case scenario would be yesterday. Also, best case scenario would be you end up paying tens of millions of dollars, right, to try and settle all of this. And I'm not sure that's going to happen at this point. We see sometimes in cases like this, if it's more than one victim, when the first one, alleged victim, comes out and says what she says, like we saw with Ashley Solis, then that tends to have others follow. And that could be the case when we get these next 9 up here, coming up and announcing that they are telling everybody who their identity is and all of this. And I saw today as well that there was another statement released on behalf of Rusty Hardin, who's Deshaun Watson's attorney. And this was why so many people, including ourselves, questioned, why did he have so many different masseuses? That was the big question. This was Rusty Hardin's answer. He said, quote, "This guy has been getting 2 to 3 massages a week. The math on that is anywhere from 120 to 150 massages a year. In the year 2020, spas shut down. The massage world during the pandemic changed," unquote. That's why he apparently went on Instagram to have to seek out different masseuses.
Well, first of all, that math doesn't add up. First of all, if he's getting 2 to 3 a week, you're looking at 200, over 200, probably, most likely. But most people that want, like, if you find a masseuse you like and that masseuse likes you, you're not just going to stick with one person?
And I would kind of think
even 2 or 3?
I would think even during the pandemic.
Yeah.
If they're private, like most of them were, and you schedule a massage with that person, then you would probably be able to come back and do it again and again and again, whatever. You have that ability to do that if you're Deshaun Watson. So going after a bunch of different ones and
from all over the country.
Yeah, that excuse. I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's true, but it's hard to believe. I could see him more being like what a lot of guys would do. If they were trying to seek out the right woman to them, they would go on Instagram and say, "Oh, she's good looking. She's my type. Let me get in there. Let me get in the DMs and say, hey, you want to come over here and give me a massage?" And but for it to happen 120 to 150 times, I just don't buy that you had to get a different person every week or whatever like that. Something's not really adding up there as well. But this continues to be something that's ongoing. And Levi, I said this yesterday with Zach. Best case scenario, he's able to really just pay everybody off. Which would cost him a ton of money, and maybe he gets to play next season and probably not on the Texans, right? He's traded somewhere, somebody gets a hold of him. Worst case scenario, he faces prison time as well as potentially never playing again. Like that's I think that's the hard part for some people to swallow at this point. Is like he may never actually play again with his age and his skill set, depending on what happens if this continues to blow up.
Yeah, this could end up very bad, especially the main thing is he could most likely not play in the NFL ever again if this all turns out to be true. And the thing is, in the court of the public eye, a lot of people have already put him off as guilty. And that's why you've seen several sponsors already cut ties or suspend contracts. They're already saying as if the battle is lost and he's definitely done it. And I mean, you can understand by some of their perspectives, because if there's almost between 20 and some people have even looked at it, maybe close to 40 people in there, then it looks very fishy. But then you just look at some other things. If you look at some of the other things that have been said during these various times about how at one point for the lawyer this wasn't about the money, then also that they were wanting $100,000. So many things don't add up. And plus, in the nature of the world we live in, you can't really trust anything anymore. So that's why I'm just sitting on my hands and knees. I am waiting for the actual confirmation from the judges. I'm waiting for it to get more and more into court so we can actually figure this thing out, because there is a potential. I'm not going to give it a full potential, but there's potential that maybe Deshaun Watson's character is just trying to be assassinated at this point. I mean, even if he somehow ends up winning, his character's already assassinated. Even there's going to already be so many people that'll still call him a lot of vile things because of all these things that have happened, even if they turn out not to be true. They'll still think that he did it, that there's a conspiracy, that he did it. So no matter what, Deshaun Watson's stock will already take a hit, but it's all going to depend on if all this is true. He will not touch a football field again, because the NFL, if they are smart, they've let some bad people in the league, but they're going to try to make a statement, because we've seen with some of these bigger situations, you can go back to the Ray Rice incident and about how all in the media that was. Deshaun Watson's almost bigger than that type of scenario. So you would have to make a big example of him if you are the NFL.
Yeah, and then if you look at what we talked about with some of these women eventually going, at least one's going to have to identify themselves. That's a legal victory right there for Deshaun Watson. Like he may be failing in public opinion right now, but that's a legal victory, because they were talking about, and Rusty Hardin was talking about, we don't know how to proceed. We want to make sure this is real, and so they've been granted that opportunity. So we'll see where it goes from there. But yeah, I think at this point as well, many teams are really skeptical to even touch him right now or in the future. We'll see what happens. This is obviously a developing story every single day, but that's the latest on Deshaun Watson. I wanted to take a look at the draft here real quick as well. Levi, we talked about this yesterday, but Vegas now has the San Francisco 49ers at minus 210 as favorites, heavy favorites, taking coming up and grabbing Mac Jones at number 3.
Yeah, they got their info from me.
Oh, they. Oh, yeah.
Tuned in
Zach
to
told
me.
him. Okay, yeah. He said
they sent me a private message like, "Hey, tell that moron Levi he's wrong."
Yeah, and they also said, "Hey, we're gonna be having another terrible quarterback for another 5 years if they do that, or at least not a star QB that Justin Fields would be."
Okay, so then what's the reason then, Levi? Why in the world, if that's true, why are they going after him at number 3?
Well, because if you look at everything that's shown in college, and if you look at some of the advanced stats, Mac Jones had, I believe, statistically a almost better year, if not better year, than Joe Burrow. And Joe Burrow is phenomenal. And I mean, think about it. The pedigree of what Alabama is, it's pretty big. But you can't fully rule that it's going to be Mac Jones, especially since, if I remember the reports that have came out, the San Francisco 49ers are going to be at the Ohio State Pro Day. They are still going to go watch Justin Fields. So I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go full in on it's going to be Mac Jones. And I know Daniel Jeremiah and his reports that he had. I mean, you could give him some credit if things go towards this, but everything points to Justin Fields being either number 2 or number 3 in the majority of people's QB list, and I'm up there with that. Mac Jones to me is number 5 in the draft, and he's still a good QB. He does not deserve to be taken top 3.
Yeah, and to me, I think part of it is familiarity. As I said yesterday, Shanahan has ties with Matt Ryan, and I think Mac Jones reminds him of Matt Ryan. So if that's the case and he wants to go back to it, fine. But yeah, you saw that Justin Fields is having a second pro day, which, by the way, he killed it in his first pro day. I mean, he looked really good. So he's having a second one here, and the Niners are coming over, and that to me, I'm with you. I think that could sway them back, and we may see next week or a week after that here, right before the draft, that Vegas shifts the odds back to Justin Fields, that he's going to be taken at number 3. But I'm with you. I think that if you trade up to that spot, then you already know who you're going to grab, most likely there. And if you fall in love with a guy, then that's fine. I guess, and I did this comparison too. Tell me if I'm wrong here, Levi, but I did this comparison as well yesterday, that what Justin Herbert did last year in the league was, I think he kind of pushed the traditional pocket-style quarterback, pocket-passing quarterback up a notch on the list of what teams want, because there were a lot of teams going after dual-threat QBs. That seemed to be the trend. We saw it in the draft a little bit too this past year, but I think what Justin Herbert did made people think, okay, well, if that's the case, then maybe Mac Jones can be our Justin Herbert.
Yeah, you could see that a little bit because, Mac Jones isn't really, when you compare to other quarterbacks, not that mobile. And, Justin Herbert does give a lot of that, maybe a new I guess, life into that type of fold. But you also got to look at probably the biggest thing for it is still Tom Brady at such a high age still being able to do it with him being slower than a snail. If some of these guys that are still pocket passers are still in the league, old man Big Ben still being able to do it and still at least make Pittsburgh to the playoffs. All these pocket passers, even though the dual threat is still a high and mighty commodity, and I mean that's why you see guys like, of course you start out with Trevor Lawrence, you start out, then go Justin Fields. All these other guys are really wanted, but the pocket passer is never going to go away, and you don't blame it because if some of these guys with great arms have been able to just dice up defenses, but it's just the revolution of now being able to have a QB that is great in both types of ways and being able to operate as much. That's why people want Justin Fields. That's why people want to go after Trey Lance. It's because they're able to do a lot more than what Mac Jones can do. Mac Jones is a great QB, but these other QBs can do a lot more with their arsenal compared to what Mac Jones can do.
And that's why maybe, again, I think he fits well in the system. Mac Jones does. You look at what San Francisco does, and they're not necessarily designed to have a dual-threat quarterback. Now, one can fit in anywhere, we know that, but it's not necessarily what you would need, I guess, in San Francisco to survive and advance. But as I told Zach yesterday, I mean, they got to hit right at this point. You know, there's no missing on quarterbacks right now, especially if you're the 49ers, because you get such a good chance here with trading up an opportunity that you were originally not going to have. You better hit it. Make sure that it works out, especially with how competitive your division is. You do not want to fall into mediocrity or below that, if at all possible. Obviously, Jimmy G's not the answer. I mean, come on, he's just not. So I think we're all with that. We're all past him at this point, including the 49ers. So we'll see what they go with. I still would be fairly surprised if Justin Fields wasn't the pick. I mean, if I'm betting in Vegas, I don't know how I put a lot of money down on Mac Jones. I know Vegas is always right. They tend to know what they're talking about, right? But come on, this is one of those that I'm still pretty skeptical about, and we'll see. After he has his next pro day and the 49ers are there, we'll see if the tune changes at all. When we come back here on the Afternoon Sports Drive, sticking with the NFL Draft, there's one really interesting story out of the Dallas Cowboys that they might potentially move up, and I know Levi would just have to be thrilled if this was the case and they moved up and got this guy. We'll talk about who that is coming up. This is the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Yeah, it's for my peoples in the streets. And this thing right here. Drop, come on, shut 'em down, open up shop. Oh, no, that's a Rough Riders roll. Drop, come on, shut 'em down, open up shop. Oh, no, that's a Rough Riders roll.
And the Rough Riders anthem of the late DMX, the legendary rapper who passed away today at age 50. Knew he was on life support, and it wasn't looking great. Drug overdose, you hate to hear that. He was dealing with addiction, but man, DMX, some legendary songs, man. Even if people didn't realize, or some might not realize who he was, you've heard his music before. He had the single largest crowd in front of him. You guys remember that video? Where was he? Like Woodstock, wherever it was.
Something like that, yeah.
500,000 fans. Like you saw the video of the crowd, and you couldn't even. I mean, as far as you could possibly see, there were just fans, a sea of fans. It was incredible. His music reached everywhere, and that's sad news, man. I feel like we've lost a ton of good artists in these past couple of years.
Lost a lot of people.
Yeah.
In the last year.
Sports figures, artists. It just seems like
good.
it keeps coming. DMX the latest. Levi, I know you were a big D fan.
Yeah. DMX was amazing. One of the most energetic, assertive rappers I have ever had the chance to listen to. And he somewhat, I think, inspired various generations with how aggressive he was with his raps and everything that he was touting in his raps. It was pretty much being able to pioneer a little bit of a generation and help spark some stuff in the 2000s. But yeah, love DMX. Hate to see him go at age 50.
Really unique voice too.
Yeah.
Like, really unique voice.
For gravelly.
Yeah,
And
nice.
he was always featured on sports tracks too. Like that was good pump up music.
I feel like you just listen to DMX and it takes you back to like 05, 06, you know? That like for me, I didn't like listen to a lot of DMX, but it was one of those things like where you hear his music, it transports you back to a certain time, like high school prom or something, or the credit song in any Fast and the Furious movie. Like it's good memories, you know? So and there's a lot of good stories now on Twitter about DMX.
I've seen
like
that.
encounters and stuff like that. Seemed like a hell of a guy.
Yeah, no doubt. So hopefully, rest in peace to one of the legends in the rap game, DMX, passing away today. We're over here live at Brown's Bottle Shop here in the afternoon sports drive. They've got over 3,000 wines available right now. They continue to add new. You got great warm weather refreshers and flavored wines from Echo Falls, combining peach with mango, or strawberry, raspberry, and blackberry. That just screams warm weather right there. As well as new red blends by, you ready for this, Zach? Game of Thrones.
Ooh.
Yeah, Game of Thrones. Buckshack and Seven Moons, new Chardonnays from 19 Crimes, Dreaming Tree, and Game of Thrones. If you're a Game of Thrones guy, like I myself was, you can come in here and make sure you get the perfect wine to go along with it. So we were talking about the NFL draft. Well, Jerry Jones, who we all just love. We love Jerry.
Yay.
He came out and, according to Chris Mortensen at ESPN, said that Jerry Jones is, quote, infatuated with Kyle Pitts. Absolutely infatuated with Kyle Pitts. There is consideration that he moves up to get him from number 10, and he would probably have to most likely move up to, I would say, 4. If you were being, I could see Kyle Pitts now going over there, especially after what he did with his pro day. My God, this guy is already getting, I know it's early, but he's getting comparisons to some of the greatest tight ends to ever play, simply on his size and what he did in college. He hasn't taken an NFL snap. But Levi, I will have you know that we were sitting right here in Brown's Bottle Shop last couple of weeks ago, whenever it was, and I told you I had him going to the Dallas Cowboys, and you said you said something on the lines of, Patrick, you're crazy. You should never talk sports again. You're
I
out of
didn't
your
say
mind. I think it was. Oh, okay. Maybe I'm remembering that
Stop
a little bit
imagining
wrong, a
stuff,
little bit
Patrick.
dramatic, but. Sorry. I'm imagining things over here. You said they needed defense, and I didn't disagree, because Patrick Surtain could easily fall to them if they stayed at number 10, and they definitely need defense. But as I told you, would it be the worst thing in the world for the Dallas Cowboys to move up and grab Kyle Pitts? I mean, honestly, if this guy is going to be a legendary pass catcher, especially at tight end, and the Cowboys add him to the mix with everything else they've got going on right now, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Dak, now that he's healthy and signed for $1 billion years for a lot of money, and then of course you bring in Zeke, and when he's motivated, we know he's really good as well. I think that this has the opportunity to be a really good offense, and you add him to the mix. How do you cover that? I'm not really even sure that's possible to cover all of those different weapons. Now, again, it all hinges on Dak. I remember last year, before the draft and when it did happen, and the Cowboys took CeeDee Lamb. And we came on the next day and said, well, look what they're trying to do. They're trying to overload on one side of the ball. And they grabbed defense in the draft too, but they grabbed CeeDee Lamb, and we said they're trying to overload on one side of the ball. The Chiefs did it. We've seen another couple of other teams do it, and it's worked at times because they've had enough defense on the other side to get them the ball back. Now, Kansas City's a little different because you have Mahomes. That's a little different. But still, Dak Prescott, if he's good enough with all those weapons, even Dak wouldn't find a way to miss, I would think, with everybody that he would have available right now. So I wouldn't think it's the craziest thing. If they did it, you get a guy that moves right into tight end, catches a ton of passes. I know people are like, wait a minute, what about Blake Jarwin? What about Blake Jarwin? Well, I'm telling you right now, with Blake Jarwin, they would move him right out of the way. I know they signed him, but they would move him right out of the way for Kyle Pitts. And they might even have to move him somewhere else. But I don't think, and we'll hear what you have to say about this, Levi, as a Dallas fan, but I don't think it would be the worst move in the world.
It wouldn't be the worst, but I think it pretty much close, at least this year. I think it locks Dallas out of the top of the NFC East to go to the playoffs. And my going for that is, I'll go back to your analogy with Kansas City. Kansas City was allowed to do that where it's running up the score on offense because you at least have a mid-range defense. You usually have, I would say, probably around, let's go probably like what, we'll go like 14 to 17 range with the defense. About average defense, not bad. You still have a couple guys. Dallas is rocking one of the worst defenses in the NFL by far. It is goodness awful. And half of that last year, you got to put it to Dak, because without Dak, just nobody played with energy. Nobody played with the soul. And I can understand you wanting to put all these weapons out there for the offense and load everything up. Well, here's the thing. You also got to look at that offensive line. The offensive line is still old, decrepit, and kind of scary how half those times they are not healthy. And if you're going to put all the pressure on Dak, you also got to put a lot more pressure on that offensive line, and I'm not willing to do that. Now, if you're going to load up this offense, the defense is still going to be one of the worst in the NFL. No sugarcoating it, unless DeMarcus Lawrence decides to actually play like the NFL player that is worth that contract, and you can find somebody to fill in for other certain holes. You can get somebody to be a good corner because Trevon Diggs still has a long ways to go. It makes sense that if you want to literally have this be an all-offense, no defensive team, that works, but it also doesn't help that on that offensive side, we saw that Zeke had his worst year since his rookie year, and we also saw Amari Cooper disappeared at times. CD's okay, and the same with Michael Gallup. They're really decent, but a lot of those guys have disappearing acts. So you're literally going to have to put it all on Dak Prescott to help get all these guys going, because I have no faith in the defense. I have no faith in Ezekiel Elliott, because you need to see that he can go back to the guy that he was a couple years ago, where he was jumping in the Salvation Army pot and he was going crazy as one of the best running backs in the NFL. But sometimes it's also hard to see if any guys can trend back up, because half the times once you hit that downward slope, it's only going down from there. Not a lot of people have been able to trend back upwards. I hope Zeke is the exception. But I do like Kyle Pitts a lot as a player, and I think he'll probably be in the upper echelon in tight ends. I probably got him. Honestly, you could even say, like, top NFL's just starting day one. I put him at number 4. I think that man will be incredible. But I just think if you're the Dallas Cowboys, if you want to be competitive in the NFC East, you need to take a guy like Patrick Surtain. That's what you need. You need Patrick Surtain Jr., and you need him to be that star corner on your defense, because you got rid of your star corner with Byron Jones going to Miami. You need somebody to take that mantle, and then you can have him fill in and be a really good piece right next to former teammate and Trevon Diggs. I'm not saying I don't like Kyle Pitts. I love Kyle Pitts a lot. But if you're wanting the Dallas Cowboys to truly be competent in the NFC East, you need defense.
Yeah, but when you think about it, if they get Patrick Surtain, okay, that's fine, and he may be, turn out to be a great corner, but what's he going to do immediately that impacts that whole defense? I don't think anything. Like, he may make some plays every now and again, but Kyle Pitts, you throw him in, I think there's a pretty good chance that he immediately impacts that offense, and it becomes one of, if not the scariest offense in the entire NFL. I know it sounds crazy. I'm saying that about the Cowboys, but it could happen.
The Dallas can lose then, instead of it being, 35 to 52, it'd be 42 to 52 or something like that, because then you probably add another touchdown. It doesn't matter if you add another weapon on the offense when you still have one of the worst defenses in the NFL. I understand that weapons in the basically the era of artillery, where you have almost every other big team loaded up with 5 or 6 weapons. But the teams that make it successful are the teams that also have a stellar defense behind them. Yes, Kyle Pitts will be great. That does not change the awful defense. You need to start building pieces to make it progressive. I'm not going to say, like, Patrick Surtain's going to make a change overnight. He will not. But also, Kyle Pitts won't make the automatic change right now. I mean, they already are going to have a great defense great offense with all the weapons, and it's just going to bump them up a couple numbers. But you need to make that progression on the defensive side, because if not, it's going to be hollow points at this point for Dak.
It's not going to take long. It's not going to take long for Kyle Pitts to adjust. I mean, look, he looks like a guy that could go out there right now and score you 2 touchdowns if you threw it to him in the red zone. I mean, that's a guy that changes an offense, and you add it to an offense like Dallas. Man, come on, if that happened, Levi, the next day, I mean, you would be thrilled. Come on, after the first week when he catches 2 touchdowns, you're going to come back. Man,
I'll be happy whenever we lose by
Pitts.
20 because our defense is so awful. I will be so happy that you have a guy who can catch everything. It does not change the defense. You need to be able to address that. I can understand having one of the best offenses, but when you have one of the worst defenses in the NFL, then that acquisition, at the end of the day, if you still take an L on the board, it means absolutely, positively nothing.
Am I crazy, Zach, for thinking that Kyle Pitts would be a great addition?
You're not crazy.
Would you take him over a defense?
Well,
a defensive player. Would you take him over Patrick Surtain? Like, would you move up from 10 to make sure you got Kyle Pitts?
well, I think it would depend on what you were able to do. After that, like, what would their next pick be? Like, it's not a crazy pick. Levi's right. They obviously need defense, but I mean they're already running and gunning and trying to outscore everybody.
Mm-hmm.
One defensive player isn't going to eliminate years of defensive problems.
Yeah.
Like if you can go out and get a generational player, then you should, and then you can get solid players in the second and third and fourth round.
Well, here's the thing. Are you still going to have those picks when you trade for Kyle Pitts? Because at number 4 for the Atlanta Falcons, what they're going to do, they're going to trade back with somebody to get defense. And it wouldn't surprise me if you see, I think it's going to be either Denver or it's going to be Dallas. One of those two is going to trade with Atlanta. Here's the thing. They're most likely going to want your first-round pick, I assume your second-round pick, and I'm going to assume maybe either a second for next year or a first for next year. They're going to try to get the boat and caboodle for what at number 4 will either be for Denver, their franchise QB in either Trey Lance, Justin Fields, whoever ends up making it, or for Dallas for Kyle Pitts. And at that point, you're going to be giving up those defensive guys that could fill in holes because there are other guys. Say if you do somehow, say you went with an offensive player at that 10 spot, then you could at least at that point still maneuver down the board because there's other corners you can go get, from an Eric Stokes to an Asante Samuel Jr. There's other guys that you can get to fill in a hole at 10 if, say, somehow you go with offense. But if you move up to 4, then those picks most likely are going to be gone. You're going to be dealing with, yes, your big piece is Kyle Pitts, and then you're going to have to maneuver with 4th and 5th rounders, and that's whenever you're going to be reaching on some guys to try to see if you can find those guys that were projected high and that could fill in those spots, but most likely won't live up to that potential. You're going to have to then lean it all to see what Kyle Pitts can do.
Yeah, it's a steep price. I mean, it would be a steep price to get Kyle Pitts, no doubt. And I think Jerry Jones at this point, if he truly is infatuated with him, then he's balancing two options. One, I take the risk and I go after Pitts, and in the best case scenario, he works out and we're able to outscore a lot of teams. That's best case scenario, that you actually do outscore a lot of teams. Worst case scenario, you don't go after a defense, and then Pitts is okay. Maybe he has some moments here and there. He's not great, and then the next year you're kind of in the same boat, but all of a sudden you're like, lost my first round pick in 2022 because it's over there with the Falcons.
But if you're looking at Jerry Jones for this situation, like if he truly is infatuated with Kyle Pitts, just get ready because you're going to see Kyle Pitts in a Dallas jersey. Like, it doesn't matter how many defensive players they need. Like, if the league was like, you have to draft a corner or you don't get to play next year, he would draft Kyle Pitts as a corner.
Yeah.
And then just play him as an offensive player.
I'm not stupid. I know I'm at Jerry Jones' whim, and his whim is an insane person. So I'm pretty much kind of screwed wherever I go. But he also probably wants this because I'm going to assume by the time the season starts, you're going to be closer and closer to full capacity. And you know what sells?
Yeah.
Big offensive weapons named Kyle Pitts that go alongside Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup. And let's be honest, after the season those three had, you're looking at Kyle Pitts more. That's the guy you're looking at as the offensive weapon that'll change the thing, because Ezekiel Elliott and all those wide receivers, they kind of had a bad year. You look at Dak and you look at Kyle Pitts and you go, that sells tickets. And even though the best pick would be to go with defense, because you're going to need to build that up, because you could be scoring 50, 60 a game, and they tried that last year and got Dak injured because of it. But, if they're going to run that way, let's just see Jerry Jones try to see if he can run back plan A again, because it's going to be close to what we saw from last season.
Well, and some of the best passing offenses now too, run through the tight end, right? I think a lot of teams, when they see some of the top tight ends in the league, they see how much production they're getting. Like, we want one of those. And I could see Jerry Jones, here's what he would do. He would grab Kyle Pitts. He'd go to Dak and say, Dak, I got you a brand new shiny toy. You're going to have a lot of fun playing with this one. And then it's very possible, yes, halfway through the season, he comes out, because, by the way, he's like the only owner we ever hear do any type of talking. Like, he gets so much press. He's the only owner in the whole league that gets any type of time to talk to the press. When he talks to him, he'll be like, guys, I don't know why our defense isn't doing so well, man. I got Kyle Pitts. I don't know what else you want me to do. Right. Now, that's something that he would say. But I think the in return on his investment with Kyle Pitts could be through the roof. If he pans out like everybody says he's going to, and I really expect that to happen immediately into the league, it's something that could push the offense over the top. And when you compare, I know, you compare it to the Chiefs of like 2018, for instance, when the Chiefs had one of the worst defenses in the entire league. That was Mahomes coming in, and he was just out of his mind. That was what helped them to be so great, obviously, was that he was playing out of his mind. Even when the defense couldn't stop anybody, you quite literally could outscore everybody. I'm not sure if that does happen with Dallas on a consistent basis. I think they have that opportunity. I'm not completely 100% ready to buy into Dak. You guys know that. But if he comes back off this injury this year with all this time he's had off and he's rehabbed and the ankle looks good and he's going out there and if Kyle Pitts is out there and he's throwing for 450 yards a game and all of a sudden this offense can't be stopped, and it's an NFC East that we've talked about so many times that is so winnable. You look at what happened last year, and I know they didn't have Dak, but they should have won that division.
Yeah.
Come on, you look at everything, and you allowed the Washington football team to win that division. That's unacceptable. So I think there's a lot of pressure here on the Dallas Cowboys. Let me ask you this here, Levi, before we get out of this segment. Would you at all be completely surprised if you saw this actually come true, where not only does Jerry Jones get Kyle Pitts, but he trades up to do so?
Nah, it wouldn't surprise me. I think at this point, I think it should be Denver, Carolina, and Dallas all contacting the Atlanta Falcons. That's what is going to happen. And if I'm Carolina, I'm the one that's going to offer the most money because I think it works the best in Carolina. But we've already seen them do this before, where we're going to try to outscore everybody because we have no choice. We saw that last season before Dak got injured, and we saw how that ended up with Dak injured. That wouldn't surprise me if it's going to happen, because knowing Jerry Jones, he sets his mind to one thing, and he's the person that I've seen get the biggest tunnel vision in my life. Once it's set on one thing, he's going to drive there and drive the team down with him. That's what he's done with the team for so long, is if it's set on one thing, he digs the team into the grave with him. And so it wouldn't surprise me if you see Jerry Jones trade up to 4, or if somehow Atlanta trades with somebody and they don't take Kyle Pitts at 4, if they then try to trade up. Won't be with Cincinnati, because Cincinnati is set on Penei Sewell, but trades up to like 6 or 7 to try to get Kyle Pitts. But it just makes the least amount of sense when it comes to success down the line, because you really need to build up the defense. And I understand dynamic offenses, whatever, but when you did this all last season up until Dak's injury, where you tried to outscore everybody, it was literally because with this system running, you still had one of the worst defenses that couldn't stop a gust of wind, and so everybody was able
but they didn't have Kyle Pitts.
How does Kyle Pitts help the defense? Yes, you get a great offensive piece, but your defense is still terrible. That doesn't change the fact that the defense is most likely going to get scored on at every.
It absolutely demoralizes the opposing offense.
They couldn't outscore everybody because they had the weapons, but I'm telling you, add Kyle Pitts to that, you think that wouldn't push them over the top of outscoring some opponents?
I don't think so. I think Kyle Pitts would be a great weapon that you could pretty much almost guarantee a touchdown half the time, and you give an actually kind of reliable target compared to what Amari Cooper is. But here's the thing. That defense is still awful. no, the majority of the acquisitions, yes, they got DeMonte Casey and Keanu Neal, who turned into a linebacker, but the defense is still not reliable. And yes, I will say Kyle Pitts is a great piece. I'm not saying that he's not a great piece. It just makes the least amount of sense that you're going to then repeat a system that got your star QB hurt and that ended up with the majority of your offensive linemen injured and failed last season. It makes no sense to then try to repeat that same system.
When Atlanta, if they go ahead and get Kyle Pitts, I expect you to come back on this show at some point and be like, man. And then if he goes out there and he's balling out and just absolutely,
I'm not saying Kyle Pitts is going to be bad. I'm not saying that. Kyle Pitts is a good tight end, the best in this whole thing. It just makes the least amount of sense for the Dallas Cowboys to do that.
Usually I would agree on this, but I feel like he's going to be such a generational type of talent at that position that it would be really hard to not, at least dip the toe in a little bit. Mm-hmm. I mean, really, really hard. That's the only thing that I have with this is and imagine, like, I think Dak has the ability, but imagine if it were one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league right now. If it were one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league right now, on Dallas there, Levi, you would absolutely want them to get Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, if Dak was that good, maybe, but I still think Dak's a QB, a great QB. But here's the thing, it still doesn't affect the defensive side at all. The defense needs to get better. And I understand if you want like a top 5 offense, that works. But again, having one of the, if not the worst defenses in the NFL does not help in one single bit. If this, again, works so much better in Kansas City, where do you have an average defense where you got some decent players to fill in for all those gaps that are pretty big at some points? But with Dallas, it's just a big old block of, enormous Swiss cheese where there's too many holes. You have to fill those up if you want to then go for these generational type of players that we all think Kyle Pitts is. Because I'm in that boat. I really like Kyle Pitts. But you have bigger holes that you need to fill besides another weapon on the offensive side. Things are a lot bigger on that defense than what is needed to be addressed on the offensive side.
It doesn't sound like you like Kyle Pitts. It sounds like you like defense.
It sounds like we need to take a break.
Hey, but can you imagine if he does stay, if Atlanta does grab him, which, by the way, can we all agree that he's probably going to go at 4?
Yeah, top 5.
I mean, I feel like it's going to be quarterback. Now, it could be a quarterback at 4, but I could see the Falcons being like, we're good with Matt Ryan. Let's go for a couple more years. Let's go with this. And could you imagine that offense? Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and Kyle Pitts? Come on now. You with Matt Ryan. Ugh.
Jerry Jones will move up to 4 and take a defender.
Jerry Jones is... And
then everyone will just be upset that he didn't take Kyle Pitts at 4.
Yeah. Well, I think that we can all agree that when he is like you said, when he is, quote-unquote, infatuated, and like Levi said, with the tunnel vision, that's why it wouldn't surprise, I don't think, any of us. All right, let's take a break. When we come back here on the Afternoon Sports Drive, one Oklahoma State basketball coach on his way out. Everybody remembers the TBT. We talked about that last year. We've got the players for Oklahoma State announced on that one as well. And then we've also got a look at what we can expect maybe from some Oklahoma State football coming up this next season. This is coming up next here on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Showed you true colors, I don't like what I see. Story keeps changing, I know what that means. Know what that means, I know what that means. How'd you go from being that somebody I believed into being someone that with me behind the scenes? Can't forgive or sorry that I ain't never received. I mean, least you could have done was gave me an apology. But you're so prideful, yeah, prideful. And I don't know how we make it out when we make out on the low. Even if it rains, you'd rather make it snow. Both you and me know we gotta let it go. Laying on the ground, wondering why it's so cold. How we make it out when we make out on the low. Even if it rains, you'd rather make it snow. Both you and me know we gotta let it go. Laying on the ground,
Back into the Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network, hour number 2 on this Friday. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster, Levi Peckinpah. We're actually at the perfect place for a Friday show because you can come on into Brown's Bottle Shop and get all the liquor or beer that you need for the weekend coming up here right around the corner, and they've got the biggest selection of beers, wines, spirits that you will find. They have brand new Pilsners all available right now as well, blondes, pale ales, lagers, Black Mesa. You got 9 Bands Brewing and many more different brands. I also think when I think of summer and I think of when I think of Pilsners, pale ales. I like blonde ales and pale ales. That's the way to go, man. I'm telling you. It's just that different hoppiness that you get. Just feels like summer. It's a little bit more than your traditional Miller Lite, Bud Light, all that stuff. So you got to switch it up a little bit, match the seasons, maybe get some shock tops going on, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't do that. I've never been a seasonal beer kind of guy. Like, give me Shiner. Like cold, Shiner.
Yeah.
Hot, Shiner.
Okay.
Rain, Shiner.
Okay. You're a Shiner guy.
Grill,
You're a Shiner guy.
Shiner.
Shiner.
Well, and ever since it tried to kill me, I've been drinking a lot of Corona, just because I think it's funny.
Just to get back at it, it's like
that was actually the first time. I'm not gonna incriminate myself here.
please don't.
I may or may not have been of legal drinking age. I may or may not have been in the middle of a field, but the first time I partook was Corona. Yeah, so it holds a special place in my heart.
Middle of a field, just fantastic. Is it crazy?
Typical Midwestern.
I was gonna say, is it crazy? I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, the middle of a field.
And it wasn't. Yeah, it was. Was it wheat? I think it was a wheat field. I don't think it.
Of course
I don't even
it
think
was.
it was corn.
Of course
I think
it
it was.
was.
Just wheat.
No, it was wheat. Of course it was.
Some soybean on the side.
Owner John Fransman is an expert on wine pairings, and you can come over and talk to him and beer guru Chuck Haley. We talked about the beers there. He's going to make sure and set you up. All you got to say is, hey, Chuck, I'm feeling like I need something for the warm weather, and he'll go, gotcha.
Shiner to the back.
I gotcha. I'll come take you right to it. So come check him out at Brown's Bottle Shop, 128 North Main. All right, so to get into the second hour, we're going to get into some buy or sell.
Are you buying
I'd buy that for $1.
or are you selling?
You pick up the phone and you sell, sell, sell.
This is Buy or Sell on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Make money, money, make money.
Buy or sell, Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler, Levi Peckinpah, Zach Lancaster here with you on this Friday. All right. My first one, I'm sticking with baseball tonight.
Ooh.
We got OSU baseball, UNC Wilmington, 10-plus hits tonight for Oklahoma State in Game 1.
Oh, that's good.
Buy or sell?
That's I'll buy it. I think that's very doable. With what we've seen from them in the past couple of weekends, several guys have gone 3 for 4, 4 for 5, 2 for 3. For what we've talked about, I think that's very manageable. It's very doable. I think you're going to see several RBIs from CES like we talked about yesterday. I think 10-plus hits is it's very doable. Buy. And I'm going to change my first one. So I'm just going to throw that out there.
Oh, okay.
Now. It'll be a surprise.
Okay.
You know what? I think I'm going to buy. I think this will be, for OSU, this will be a series where it would weirdly, I would say, maybe a rack 'em up stats type of series where you're going to be able to get a lot of various great things going for Oklahoma State. So I'm going to go with the buy for the weekend, and especially for tonight.
I'm pretty much sticking with that same logic.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be surprised if UNC Wilmington got out of here with the win, if I'm being completely honest with you. It's just too much of a talented Oklahoma State team, and 10-plus hits, the way they swing the bat, I think that's something they could string together, man, this first game. I really do believe that. We talked about it last time when Kansas State brought their number one guy in, and it was no big deal at all that they brought him in, and that was one of the best pitchers in the Big 12. OSU said, no problem, we're going to absolutely rock your world, and they did so. And I expect the same thing this evening. What you got, Zach?
So I'm gonna have a two-parter. I'm gonna stick with my original, but I'm gonna tack on like a if, because I checked the weather earlier.
Yeah,
and it wasn't, it looked like everything had passed, but I just now checked it, and there's some pretty chunky storms down in the city, and it looks like it's heading this way. And I also just got a lightning proximity. So if the game isn't affected by weather, Oklahoma State pitchers combine for 8+ strikeouts.
Ooh.
Because I have a feeling that somehow this game is going to be affected, and we're going to be seeing a Sunday doubleheader.
Sunday doubleheader, huh?
It's looking like it.
Yeah, if we get to play, yeah, I'll go A+ strikeouts. I can buy that because I think we're still going with Parker, right? I believe
Yeah.
is who's going to be pitching.
Yeah, from what I've heard.
So and he could get that by himself. But this is, I'm not trying to say it's a UNC Wilmington team that's just terrible because they're not.
They put up some good runs this year.
They can swing it, no doubt. But man, they haven't faced Oklahoma State pitching, plain and simple.
Yep.
So I'm gonna buy that. I think you get with A+ strikeouts, we may see double digits tonight.
Oh yeah, that is something that'll be extremely easy, and yeah, Parker Scott can get that by himself in easy fashion. So yeah, easy buy.
Yeah, I didn't want to be too over the top aggressive with it because originally I was like 12. I set my bar at 12. I was driving back from Coyle and I was like 12. I think 12 is doable, but 12 might be a bit steep to start off. So let's narrow it down a little bit. Let's go 8. I'll buy 8. I think that, Parker Scott could easily get that. I don't know if he will. I think he can get pretty close. But you bring in another 2 arms, and Oklahoma State, you could easily combine for 8. Now, we talked about it yesterday. What was it, like 7-1, 6-1, 6-2 kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It'll all depend, obviously, if, you look at it, and I think Wilmington's only had, one game where they've scored 3 or more runs this year, or 3 or less runs, excuse me. So they know how to light it up. But like you said, they haven't faced a bullpen like Oklahoma State yet, and they won't the rest of the year. So I'll take 8+. I also think it'll probably be – I don't know if they'll just delay because it's a 6 o'clock start. And those storms are moving in. There's nothing on OSU's Twitter account right now. So as of right now, the game is still on. But I could see something happening with weather and possibly having a doubleheader at some point this weekend.
Yeah, we'll keep updated and make sure if that is affected. All right, Levi, what you got for us today?
All right, my one that I have, we saw recently that there was the number change rule of what NFL players would be able to change their numbers to. And really, we've also seen at least an example by Stephon Diggs about him saying that people have paid money and invested in his number 14 that he's already got. So buy or sell, that really, I don't think going into the season, I'll put it, I guess, the number at least, since there's a good chunk of people will go about 15 major players. That'll be the limit that I think of people that will actually change their number.
15, huh? I did see that they're relaxing the number of restrictions. I think remind me if I'm incorrect here, Levi, but didn't Zeke tweet like something yesterday about it was like a 15 or something? Yeah. He said
it was something along that lines. But I mean, Stephon Diggs has a very good point of the people that have paid that have paid to, whether it's Buffalo Bills tickets or jerseys or for other various things, they're already invested in this. These guys are multiple years into their NFL career, and so at this point, when you've been doing this for so long, why change a number?
Yeah, I thought that was a great point that he made, and I mean, I continue to like Stephon Diggs more and more each day, and I really do appreciate that. But I think you said 15. I think I'll sell for the top players because that is a part of their brand. If you think of Patrick Mahomes, you think 15. If you think Tom Brady, you think 12. You go down the list of, and those are quarterbacks, but obviously there's, and you might see more. Maybe
I hope they change.
The quarterbacks.
You
Yeah,
see Pat Mahomes go to like 13.
Oh man, yeah, that would just be weird.
19.
Yeah, I mean, you might see like some running backs do it. I think Derrick Henry. I saw his tweet about it. He was like, changing numbers is cool and everything. Why don't we get more of those throwbacks and stuff?
Yes.
And I was like, yeah, that would be clean. I could definitely see that. So 15 might be high. We'll see some, and there will be some notable names that are like, I want to do it for sure. So yeah, we'll see it. I think it's about time they probably go ahead and just say, you know what, if you want to wear your number, wear your number.
Yeah. I'll sell 15 top end players because when you get to be one of those top 15, top 20, top 30 type players, your number and your brand is established. Like Tom Brady will never change from 12. Pat Mahomes will never change. You've got probably 20 some odd guys that just will not change their number because that's who they are. But if we're talking just guys across the league, you're going to see so many rookies and sophomore players and third-year players that are like, man, I've been wanting that number, and that guy wouldn't give it to me, and now I can have it because he's got, like, I think you'll see a lot of players change, but not top end.
I think, Levi, you'll see more non-quarterbacks than anything. Really, I do believe, and it will be strange to see a running back with, like, a number 1 on his chest running around back there.
And you'll see that. You'll see the high-ego players that aren't quite superstars yet. like your 25 to 50 type players change in numbers. But yeah, top end players, I would say probably less than. I could see like up to 15, but not more.
I would think 15 is probably the best number. So I'm going to buy at that because I could see, to me, wide receivers seem like the players that would do that the most often. And then also running backs that think their value's all the way up top when they're more like a mid-range type of player. There's a lot of guys that I think would do it, but it's mainly those special team, or not special teams players, but those specialty type positions, whether it's wide receiver, running back, or even a cornerback. I think those guys would be more likely to change it. So I'll buy it around 15. I think that's where you're going to see the amount of like big time players.
Yeah, receivers certainly. I mean, the drama queens of the league, like that, they will enjoy changing the numbers.
Odell's going to change his number like every other 5 minutes.
Yeah, if Odell gets the opportunity, yeah, he might as well be a new one every single game. Like he would be the front runner for that. So we saw Sam Darnold get moved to the Panthers this week, and it was the big trade going down in the NFL. And I was looking at his career stats earlier. Just wanted to throw those back up and kind of remind myself of how terrible he actually has been. Buy or sell with first year with the Panthers that he cracks 20-plus touchdowns for the first time in his career with his new team.
Yeah, I'll sell it. I don't think he can do it. It's like what we talked about yesterday with Ryan Tannehill. It's going to be really, really interesting just to see what that New York coaching staff, the influence and impact they had on Sam Darnold. Like if Sam Darnold comes out, because coming out of college, everyone was like, man, he's going to be so good in the league. We got to do this. We got to do. So like if he comes out and it's very apparent early on, like he's in that first preseason game, and the dude throws for like 250 yards in the first half, and you're like, oh, okay, maybe that's it. But like, I have a feeling that Sam Darnold isn't. I don't know exactly what the impact was that coaching staff had. I feel like Sam Darnold is what Sam Darnold is, and I don't think he's going to come out and throw for like 35 touchdowns and 4,000 yards. So I'll sell 20 plus. I like 14 or 15 with like 12 interceptions.
Also, Levi, before you answer, I want to know as well how you felt about this move.
Loved it. I thought that this was a smart move on both sides, especially for New York, because depending on how this, if it works out or if it doesn't work out, that second round pick, it could be potentially top 40, top 45. So that's pretty smart by New York to at least get one for next year. Sam Darnold needed to reset. There's no other ifs, ands, or ways around it. That is something that Sam Darnold was needing for so long, because that New York system and really that Adam Gase system that it was in was toxic. It was poison to him, and it destroyed his career and destroyed his development. And you could just tell by how Robert Saleh was wanting to go around that he wasn't going to be the guy. And you can completely respect it for a new regime. You always kind of want a new quarterback to go with your new head coach. And I'm going to buy this. I think it is a perfect fit for Matt Rule and the way he's able to build quarterbacks, and also the way and the amount of options you have for big targets. I mean, when you got Robbie Anderson, I mean, they've connected before over in New York, and Robbie Anderson's better than he was at New York. And then DJ Moore, who is a very great young wide receiver, and I think they're going to get another weapon in the draft. That to me is the prime spot where Kyle Pitts should end up, because that would revolutionize what they're going to do on the offensive end. But also, if they don't get a guy like Kyle Pitts, there's so many wide receivers in this draft that you can easily replace what Curtis Samuel offered, maybe with like a Kadarius Toney. That would be a great fit there. But to me, with Sam Darnold, what he's offered, and then also don't forget the best, if not the best running backs in the NFL, and Christian McCaffrey back there. I mean, 20, I think he's going to be able to easily hit. I mean, you can at least give, 4 or 5 to Christian McCaffrey via passing touchdowns. Can probably give 6 to 7 to both Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. I think he's going to be easily able to make it.
You would hope, yeah.
Well,
for sure.
He hit 19 touchdowns in 2019. Mm-hmm. He had 17 his rookie year, and then last year was 9. I think it would be. I'm really interested to see what the Jets do. Do they still grab a quarterback in the draft? Do they stick with Sam Darnold as being their guy right now? And they really give him the keys here, or does Teddy Bridgewater stick around and it's a battle for the position? But for the sake of this conversation, I think I'm going to buy as well. Yes, I expect those weapons to be completely obviously upgraded for him, and that's going to be a new scenery, and he's got that opportunity. Yeah, he's played with Robbie Anderson before. I really am excited to see that hook up. He's actually got a legitimate deep threat in DJ Moore, which he's never really had. Oh, and by the way, there's play action that's actually going to work in this offense. Play action never worked in New York. Why? Because no one was afraid of what Frank Gore was going to do. They didn't have to respect him at that point because he's 100 years old and he wasn't going to do anything. In Carolina, you actually do have to respect play action because Christian McCaffrey is a top 3 running back in the entire league. So that's going to, I think, help Sam Darnold, the guy that needs that help right now. So I'll buy. I think if he is the starter and he goes through this season, he's going to get through over those 20 touchdown marks. He might even crack back over and close to 3,500 yards, something like that. I as much as I love to hate on Sam Darnold, because maybe not hate, but just talk about how terrible he is because he has been terrible. I want to see him succeed. But this is kind of the last straw thing here, right? If he doesn't get it done in Carolina with all the weapons that are available to him, I'm not sure he's ever going to get it done.
Yeah, same. So I'm sticking with baseball. Whenever the first game is played, whether it's tonight or whether it's tomorrow, whatever. In the first game, Oklahoma State holds Wilmington to 6 or fewer hits in the first game.
Total, huh?
Total in the first game.
I like the strikeouts, like I was talking about there, but I think with that, there's going to be plenty of opportunities for contact in this game. Going back to what UNC Wilmington does, hitting the baseball, that would lead me to, let's see, 6 or fewer. I'm gonna sell that. I think they'll probably get right above it. I could see them getting 7 or 8 hits, but will it translate to any runs is the thing. To me, this could be like a 7 to 8 hit affair for them with like 0 to 1 run on the entire board.
Lots of lobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in that same ballpark. I think you're going to get a decent amount of hits. I'm probably thinking around the 8 to 9 mark, but I just don't know if that'll translate into actually putting points on the board. I don't know if that's going to translate to getting any actual runs. So I'm going to sell as well. I think you're going to have a big hitting affair and at least being able to get a couple guys on base, but I don't think that they're going to be able to get the full translation of what you need to at least seem competent in combat Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
I had 8.
Yeah, okay.
I'll buy or I'll sell it. I think that's possible, but I could see them giving up hits. I definitely hold them to runs. Hold them to fewer than 3 runs. But I could see 8 runs.
I think this is one of those where UNC Wilmington strains a lot of runners.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I could see. You might get them on early, but they're not going to move around the base paths too easily. We come back here on the afternoon sports drive. We mentioned yesterday that the Mets got away with one of the easiest thieveries I've ever seen.
Egregious.
Absolutely egregious. And it led to a win. And that's a big deal. It's the craziest win we've seen this season. We'll talk about that coming up next in the afternoon sports drive.
Whoa. Staring as I go, I gave until my soul hurt, never told them so. Watching as I fall, somewhere down below. Maybe I'm just falling to get somewhere they want.
Welcome back into the afternoon sports drive here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster, Levi Peckinpah. We're live at Brown's Bottle Shop, 128 North Main here in Stillwater. Over 3,000 wines available at Brown's Bottle Shop, and they continue to add new ones. Great warm weather refreshers and flavored wines. From Echo Falls, you can combine peach with mango or strawberry, raspberry, and blackberry. And they also have new red blends by Game of Thrones, Buckshack, and 7 Moons. New Chardonnays from 19 Crimes, Dreaming Tree, and Game of Thrones. A bunch of different brands available as well. And they told me about this one too, Zach. How about Gunpowder Irish Gin? One of the new items on the menu. Wheat vodka as well. They also have Ocean Organic vodka. And you have Stillhouse right now. And this is what I like right here. I don't know if you've tried this before. The Stillhouse has its original moonshine available. Tried that?
Not a big moonshine guy. I've had some bad times on moonshine.
Okay, well you don't have to take the straight, by the way. They have the apple crisp, coconut, mint crisp, and peach tree.
Oh, and I'm not even talking about flavor.
No. I mean, I feel like it's you, and you also have you got that, and then if you're one of those people that you don't necessarily like to go home and mix your own drinks, they have a huge variety of surprisingly good pre-made cocktails too. You go straight in, got your drink ready to go for you. It's perfect for the weekend if you don't have time to make it yourself.
Plus, for some of you fancy folks, because I know there's fancy folks listening to this show.
Our entire audience, actually.
They got a cooler over there of chilled champagne.
Yeah, and if you've listened to the station, you've heard of some of the new ads that have a bunch of different ideas for even mixing champagne, by the way. Chilled champagne, how about that? Always
What
a
a
good
treat.
time.
Plus all your energy drinks.
Yeah, you can get and perfect to mix energy drinks, too, safely with
so
alcohol.
if you got your vodkas or your Jägermeisters or whatever, plenty.
Easy
of
to
energy
make
drinks.
Vegas bombs. I mean, you go down the list. All kinds of great stuff.
Yes.
Over here at Brown's Bottle Shop. So yesterday, we were sitting there, and we almost got to it. We didn't quite have enough time. We were sitting there watching the Mets yesterday, playing baseball. And as it unfolded in front of us, we saw them quite literally steal away a victory.
Yeah.
What happens is you have Michael Conforto up at the plate. Yeah, he's up there, and he is on a it's a 3-3, I believe, at the time. 2-2, I believe, at the time. Bases loaded. Bottom of the ninth. He's up to bat, and a pitch comes in. Looks like a breaking ball. He leans into it with his right shoulder.
Over the plate.
And it grazes his elbow area, and it is called a hit by pitch. Runner scores, walks it off, and the Mets win the game. But then, obviously, Don Mattingly, they're playing the Marlins. Don Mattingly comes out. He's like, dude, he leaned into that. How could you not see that? That you can't do that. It's illegal to lean into a pitch. You have to do your best effort to get out of the way of a pitch if it's coming at you. You clearly leaned into it for this exact reason, for you to score the run and win the game. He's like, no, it's not. You can see the umpire arguing back, no. And then he goes, you know what? Fine, we'll go and check replay. When they check replay, though, you can't review whether or not a batter leaned into a pitch. You can review whether it hit the batter or not. And thus, they were saying that, yes, it did hit him, therefore the Mets win. This is one of the most unacceptable things I've seen in sports in a long time. Because that right there, if that's the only reviewable part of that play, why in the world do we have replay in the first place? This has been the question that we've asked for every sport since replay has become a big deal. Football, basketball, and baseball, it always seems that there's something that pops up, and in the rule book or whatever, it says, well, this play's not reviewable. Or you can review this, but not this. Well, why? I mean, if we have the ability to do it at this point, and we've already moved to this point in sports, why not get it right? Isn't that the whole point of replay?
Yeah.
Is if something is called wrong on the field, you're able to go back and get it right? And this was a play right here that resulted, it affected the outcome of a game. Like, usually you don't see it as this egregious, but this was clearly on purpose, leaned into, and it got him a win. I've never seen anything like it.
When you have the Mets broadcast crew,
Yeah.
like the television crew, they were up in arms over it. They did not agree with the call. Like, they thought he should have been called out. And that's, I think, one of the things that really upset a lot of people about it was when you watch the replay, the umpire was halfway through calling him out. He was fixing to ring him up, and then he's like, oh, wait a second, that might have hit him, so let's say hit by pitch, and we'll walk in the run. Like, if you're going to I like replay. I think replay is good for a lot of sports. I don't know about, like, in college football where you're taking, like, 8 minutes to review a play, and you're just waiting, and you're like, I don't really like that. But I like review and replay in every sport because you can get it right. There should be no restrictions in reviewing a play, whether it's football, whether it's basketball, whether it's baseball. If he was hit by a pitch, we're not, well, okay, he might have leaned into it, but I'm sorry, Mr. Mattingly, I can't review that. I can only tell you if he got hit, and he got hit. It's like the knob on the bottom of a bat. Well, it hit that, and the bat's part of the hand, and the hand's part of the bat. Like, I'm sorry, like, But it's one of those things where if you can review he got hit or not, you should be able to review if he leaned into it. He did. I'm sorry, that's an out. We're going to extra innings. Marlins, put your runner on second.
Exactly.
which
yeah.
is a stupid rule to begin with.
Yeah, that's dumb. I don't see the point of replay if this isn't reviewable. Like, there's some things that are, you say, okay, this aspect of the game is not reviewable, and while we may argue it, fine, whatever, it's in there. But this one, where it has to be reviewable for this exact situation,
Yeah.
because what if it is bases loaded and a guy leans into a pitch? You're telling me that if it's called the other way, you can't go back and clearly see that he did that and then make the right call? Come on.
Now I don't know if it's going to have such a severe impact because it happened April 8th. But imagine if we're setting October 23rd with a chance to either go to Game 6 or the Mets win it in 5 games. You're telling me that you wouldn't have cities burned to the ground? Like, I don't know if they're going to go in and, like, you could see them adjust the rules after this. Like, I don't know how much people are up in arms over it, but I could see a Conforto rule, an amendment get tacked into the rule book at the end of this season.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, to me, it's just a joke. You can't win a game this way. And if I'm the Mets, I'm not happy about that. I mean, when you slow down the replay, it's the most clear you'll ever see a guy lean into a pitch.
Yeah.
And it was a strike. That was the thing. It was right down the middle.
Well, I can't remember the guy's name because I don't think he was a big guy, but big name. But there's the golfer. Did you see the little video that he sent out? He hit a ball into a sand bunker in Augusta and said he was assessed a 2-stroke penalty because on his backswing
yeah.
he nicked the sand. Like, the only way you see that is if you slow it down and zoom in. Like, you don't see that in real time. Like, oh, you hit the, like, someone had to call in that. Like, that's stupid. Same thing with this. Like, I think you're going to see a lot of these little ticky-tack calls and ticky-tack rules and fouls. Same thing with, like, charge and block. I think you're going to see the NCAA and the Referee Association. I think you're going to see them get together in the offseason, and they're going to clearly define what a charge is. Because I would easily and safely put money on 70% of the charge calls in March Madness were not charges. Period.
Yeah, that was a tough one as well. And they have an off day today in this series, and it kicks back in tomorrow. So I would keep an eye on that series. I don't care who it is. If I'm pitching, Conforto's getting plunked right away.
I was going to say buy or sell. He takes the ball in the first 3 innings.
If he doesn't, I will be extremely disappointed in Don Mattingly. You have to go after him.
That's one of the few unspoken old man baseball rules
it's
that
an
I
unwritten
really
rule.
love.
Yep, you have to.
Yeah.
You absolutely have to. If they don't, I will be extremely disappointed. Levi, I know that you recently latched on to a Major League Baseball team. Isn't that right?
Yes, I have recently joined the fandom of the Chicago White Sox.
Oh, the Chicago White. You know what? I really like watching the Chicago White Sox. In the last few years, though, like they've really turned into a better team these last couple of years because they were just awful.
They were so
before.
hard to watch.
Like really, really bad.
Yeah.
And
That's the White
Tony
Sox
La
history,
Russa
man.
comes in this year. Yeah, exactly. And Tony La Russa comes in this year, a lot of young talent. So are you liking it so far with the White Sox? Is it making you more of a baseball fan?
Oh, yeah. I think latching on and going with the White Sox has been able to help drag me along and has been able to definitely push me more and more into being more and more of a baseball fan. I mean, I was doing that a lot with Oklahoma State baseball, and that was helping push me forward. But I was needing to get a big leg into the MLB, and being able to attach with the White Sox to me was pretty easy. Tim Anderson, I know that he's right now out on injury because of a hamstring injury, but Yermin Mercedes to me has been the guy for the White Sox that has been able to push them over the edge in so many different occasions. I mean, the first week he was the offensive player. He was one of the offensive players of the week. So he just starting this season, the man has been pretty crazy.
Yeah, I just showed Zach the home run he hit last night. That was an absolute tank. He was hitting like 560 up to that point, and he just went just went bomb city.
Basically hit it 500.
Oh, it was unbelievable. It was absolutely unbelievable. One of the biggest home runs I've seen ever. So yeah, they're a fun team. I think you picked at the right time to watch the White Sox, Levi. I'll give you that much, because if it were a couple years ago, yeah, not so much. When we come back here on the Afternoon Sports Drive, we'll tell you what we learned to round out the show. It's coming up next.
I am a sinner who's probably gonna sin again. Lord, forgive me. Lord, forgive me. Things I don't understand. Sometimes I need to be alone.
Trick don't kill my vibe. Trick don't kill my vibe. I can feel your energy from 2 planets away. I got my drink, I got my music, I will share it. But today I'm feeling trick don't kill my vibe. Trick don't kill my vibe.
Don't kill the vibe. It's Friday. You can't kill it, no matter what you do. We're live at Brown's Bottle Shop in the afternoon sports drive, 128 North Main. The best selection of beers, wines, and spirits available. You can come in and check out everything they have new. We've seen people, Zach, we've seen people come flying in here. Like they filled this place up just a minute ago.
A bit of a if you need to come to Brown's and get liquor, this is the perfect time to do it.
Perfect.
Because they're in just like a little bit of a lull. If you were in here 10 minutes ago,
there was a line.
There were a lot of people, which is great. It's a Friday night. The weather's nice. The weekend, like the weather this weekend is supposed to be really good. I'm going to leave here with some stuff. My mom, as I said earlier this week, so don't call the cops. My entire family's vaccinated. We're going to get together at my grandma's house and have my mom's birthday party. So I might take a couple bottles. I'm sitting next to sake.
I see that.
I might surprise some folks and just take some sake in. This is Japanese finest sake.
Woo.
Is what this bottle says.
Not bad at all.
Good prices in here too.
Great prices, great selection over here at Brown's Bottle
Right
Shop.
behind you.
Yeah.
Summer shandy.
Perfect.
Leinenkugel.
Perfect for Leinenkugel is summer.
I feel like for me, Leinenkugel tastes like Fruity Pebbles.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little too sweet.
Yeah.
Shiner.
Okay, Shiner. Just Shiner.
Just take Shiner.
That's it, Shiner. All right, to round out the show, we're going to tell you what we learned.
The day is coming to an end. Time to find out if these two got any smarter. Let's find out what the guys learned today on the afternoon sports drive.
Well, I learned something today.
All right, so I learned that we haven't had a good streaker story since the Super Bowl.
Isn't that sad?
Because we haven't had a Major League Baseball player or fan do it yet.
Didn't happen at the NCAA tournament.
Didn't happen at on the court. Have we ever had a streaker on the court? I feel like that's a field thing because there's too much. There's more room on the field. I don't know if we've ever had it on the court.
It'd be perfect.
But we haven't had a good streaker story in a while, so we get one now in a Manchester United and Granada soccer game in Spain.
Doesn't
surprise you, but this might surprise you.
Soccer fans, man.
The streaker was inside the stadium for 14 hours.
Just waiting?
Just waiting to get his opportunity.
I'm not surprised, man. Is he a Man U fan or was he from Spain?
I think he's from Spain.
I don't think it matters.
I think they said he might have been homeless, but still.
I don't think it matters, man. European soccer fans,
wild.
They're insane.
But hiding in there for 14 hours, like that is dedication, man.
He's got a lot of money riding on it.
Yeah, it is. Like the Super Bowl guy. Yeah. So he runs around completely butt naked. Okay, streaking. The best part about all this, earlier on Twitter, last night actually and into today, Colin Kaepernick was trending. Everyone was like, why? We look it up, and if you look up a picture of this streaker, he looks
like
identical to Colin Kaepernick. People actually thought that he had lost his mind even further and was deciding to go out there and streak on a Spaniard soccer game. It was unbelievable. I was like, so we got an amazing trend on Twitter. We got a guy that was most dedicated I've ever seen. 14 hours he waited in this stadium before he got it done. Streakers are alive and well, everybody. We are back to sports.
Isn't that great? It just warms your heart.
It just does.
Warms your heart. So I've got 3 to choose from, and I'm gonna let you decide. I've got 2 baseball and I've got a football. What 2 should I take?
What 2 should you take from that?
I'm gonna take 2. And I've got 3 to pick from.
Well,
I've got 2 baseballs and a football.
I'm going to throw the football in there.
Okay.
And then let's just do one baseball then as well.
A or B?
B.
All right. So, football. We talked about it. Football for sure, and then I'm going to take B, baseball.
Okay.
So, for sure, football, T.C. Williams High School. If that name sounds familiar, it's because it's the high school that the movie Remember the Titans was based off of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It will no longer be called T.C. Williams High School. It is being rebranded, and it will now just be Alexandria City High School because it's in Alexandria, so it would make sense. I went to Bristow High School,
Makes sense.
The reason being was Thomas, is it Chambly? Sounds like a Southern name. Chambly. Thomas Chambly Williams. He was a former superintendent, was an avowed segregationist for years. So it makes sense to separate your name from that. I'm not going B. I'm going A because I think this one's way cooler. So I saw a tweet today about umpires. They're all the rage. The tweet's a buddy of mine, former minor league umpire, once told me about an unwritten code for check swings, help from first and third base umpires. If the home plate umpire points with his left hand, it means I didn't see it. It's your call. However, if he points down to first base with his right hand, or I guess if he goes to the third base with his right hand, he says, I have no swing, don't go against me. So next time you're watching your America's favorite game, take a look. If he goes with his left hand, you might see the umpire say, oh yeah, he went around. But if he goes with his right hand, I'm curious at how many first base and third base umpires are going to say, oh, he's with his right hand. I'm going to call it a strike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love those little nuggets with baseball, man. It's great. But speaking of umpires, we know we talked about Angel Hernandez the other day. Mm-hmm. Get this. I saw this as well. I'll throw this in there.
I saw this.
He missed 24 calls the other day for the Astros and Angels.
Yeah.
He had a correct call percentage of only 83.2%. He missed 24 calls.
Did you see the video of some of his calls that he missed?
I did. It's unbelievable.
We're talking like 8 inches off the plate in any direction. They were calling him strikes.
Understand how he can still have a job in Major League Baseball.
But it's because he's not white.
Yeah, this is what he claims.
No, he's a terrible umpire. It has nothing to do with
he
race.
tried to sue for discrimination. No, you're just bad.
When every baseball player, former and current, cannot stand you, it's because you're a terrible umpire.
Yeah, it's not racist. It's you're just really bad at your job. Levi, did you learn anything today?
It's something that I've been learning over the past couple days, and it's really that people are kind of getting a little sensitive about some really dumb things. Whenever you look at the NFL draft, of course, you have a lot of guys that go and actually attend, and they're going to try to have this whole thing back in person again. But Trevor Lawrence has decided he's going to stay back, and he's going to be there as a thing for being with Clemson, kind of showing the support there and staying back home. Well, people are now making a big deal because you're having guys like Mac Jones, Christian Bardmore, and they're having all these other various players, including Jamar Chase, go. And so many people, whenever Trevor Lawrence decided that he is going to not attend the draft, just got up in arms and were having a big fit over him not going to the draft. The thing is, that's been happening for years, and I don't know why since Trevor Lawrence decided not to, everybody got angry. I don't know.
I think it's because it's just the number one overall pick, and it's still the pandemic. Like, I get that it's not as dangerous as it was last April, but I can't fault the kid. And honestly, I think you're going to see it trend more in this direction. I think you're going to see more and more, maybe not every single guy, but I think you're going to see more and more kids who's like, you know what? I've had this group of friends with me and my family. They've supported me my entire life. They can't afford to make it out. I'm just going to stay at home. I'm going to have a party, and then I'm just going to honor them, and I'm going to make my millions.
Yeah, and if it was maybe a big deal for his family to get there or whatever during all this, then I could understand it more. I certainly myself, if I was going to be the first pick, I would want to be there just to experience it. But again, if it were fully normal, that's one thing. And but I think you also saw what Joe Burrow got to do last year when he wasn't there, and it looked like a cool moment with he and his family. So I don't just understand why people would be extremely upset about it. It is different, no doubt, because we did see multiple receivers and stuff accept the invite today like normally. So that'll be good to see. But yeah, I mean, you know what? Who cares? Trevor Lawrence going to be balling out most likely here in the near future. So we'll see what he does with the Jags. This has been the Afternoon Sports Drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Thank you to Brown's Bottle Shop. Appreciate their hospitality. Again, you need to come in right now and take advantage of all their great offers on beers, wines, and spirits for your weekend, as we are now sending you off into your weekend, and this is the perfect stop for that. That's Zach Lancaster. That's Levi Peckinpah back in the studio. Appreciate him as always as well. And I'm Patrick Wheeler. This has been the Afternoon Sports Drive. Have a fantastic weekend. We'll talk to you on Monday.